Hey, hey, good evening, everybody. I am on tonight to bring you a very special interview, and I'm excited. So, we need to wait a minute, have Mr. Trevor join us. Hope everybody's having a good evening. And once he comes on, we will get started, and you guys will get to hear a very inspiring story. And I get to hear it for the first time too myself, so I'm excited in detail. I know bits of it, but I'm excited to hear more details about it. So, hey friend, how are you? I'm waiting for Trevor is who I'm going to be interviewing tonight, and waiting for them to come on so we can get started with our interview. How are you? How are things? You still at Lakeview? All right, let's see. There he is. All right. Oops. All right, Mr. Trevor. Let's see if we can add you in here. Do you see the I can't add you. Do you see the little button for you to well, let's see here. Okay, there it goes. Sorry, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. Hey, Luann. Hey, Tyler. Hi, Christy. We're waiting to bring in our guest tonight for this interview. I'm excited. Hopefully the internet is going to connect because it says it's still adding. You guys, our internet connection is so slow. There it goes.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I hear an echo.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Dang
it. I still hear myself.
What about now?
I don't know. We'll test. Nope. I don't hear myself. Perfect.
You don't hear yourself?
Well, I hear myself on my end, but I don't hear the echo on your end anymore. So that's perfect. How are
still
you?
Good?
Yes,
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excited for this interview.
Yeah,
excited.
Me too.
You're excited too. I can tell. So
Yeah,
Trevor's telling his story, and it's the first time he's sharing his story in this kind of format on this kind of platform. So I'm sure you would appreciate some grace. We're just gonna chit chat. So
yeah, I'm a little nervous to say the least, but I do know that this is super near and dear to your heart. So I know that you reached out to me right away, and I never really confirmed or denied what I was doing. Like, I think I kind of gave you bits and pieces like, yeah, I've got it, but didn't really get into detail with you.
Okay.
But definitely was walking down much of a similar path as you know, trying to do things as holistically as I can. So yeah, so I really want
give the audience some history about kind of pre-cancer. So you are diagnosed currently, and kind of a little bit of what it was like before, and then we'll work up to where we are today.
Yeah, so pre-cancer, I was a female, obviously. So, well, I don't know if that's obvious, but in 2015, I was medically discharged. I know, probably not obvious. I was medically discharged from the Army, and I started my transition then. So I was taking a lot of prescription medications at the time. I had knee pain, and I think I was doing a lot of self-medicating as well. But transitioned out of the military and started my transition as Trevor. Definitely moved to Texas with my ex-wife at the time, bought a house, started an IT job, and just kind of started living a totally different life than I'd ever lived. I'd never lived as a male. I entered the military kind of as a child that didn't really have a focus, and then I came out, really laser focused on IT. I had got some certifications. I took to it really well, and so I kind of felt like for the first time in my life, I had a career path. So we moved to Texas, and things kind of fell apart with us. So 2015, 2016 was a lot of transition for me. 2016, 2017 was divorce. So it didn't go as well, obviously. And we kind of fell apart, and I went through a really hard transition period again. I had transitioned to Trevor away from my family. And so I came home heartbroken, scared, sad, trying to figure out what's next. How do I get my life back? Who even am I? I have no idea. And everybody that I knew didn't know me anymore. So there were times where I was sitting in the same room as my mom, and no fault of her own, but I could be like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And her voice, like I was disconnected. There was such a disconnect between who I was, where I was, and what was going on in my life, and who could kind of be there for me. And so it really just took a personal journey of kind of self growth. I was walked down, and I say kind of prepared for this. There was a lot of things that was going on, and that I was communicating with my family in terms of buying my house. Why I even went as far to say, what if somebody in our family gets sick, Mom? So there were just a lot of things that I kind of understood about myself. I didn't know it was myself necessarily at the time, but I kind of had an idea. So to kind of give a idea, because people always ask, well, how did you not know? So transitioning out of the military, I was taking a lot of prescription medications again for my knee pain and self-medicating, like I said. And so I got internal hemorrhoids. And so I was getting checked for internal hemorrhoids, and every time I would hear the same thing: we can't see anything, we can't feel anything, but they should go away. And that was kind of the end of it. Being a trans person, dropping my pants in a doctor's office and having to explain to the nursing staff, hey, by the way, this is going to get really awkward really quickly, became something that I stopped doing after about the fifth time that I ever, said it. It was like, you're not going to find anything. You're not going to see anything. I'm going to get uncomfortable. We're going to end at the same place. This is probably internal hemorrhoids. And I'm going to save, kind of, I don't know, like my embarrassment and not say anything, I guess. So I wasn't saying anything for like 2015. I just kind of left that happen. I thought it would work itself out. I believed the internal hemorrhoids. I stopped the prescription medications. But then I went through divorce. And so a lot of what I think my cancer symptoms were, I thought I was chalking up to just, going through what happens when you lose your spouse. I mean, I was loss of appetite, weight loss, night sweats, lack of sleep, lack of concentration. There were so many things that, yes, would normally point, to somebody that life hadn't changed, that there was a huge problem. But for me, I was going through so much change that for me, it was like, well, of course I'm not sleeping. Of course I'm not eating. Of course, my appetite. So that kind of continued throughout 2017. Like I said, I just kind of had my head down and was laser focused on my finances and picking myself back up and trying to do the best that I could. I quit my job in doing IT in June, and I went in for colonoscopy in August. So I had lost my insurance. So I only had the VA's insurance at this time, and it probably changed my entire course of what I chose to do in terms of treatment, because had I had private insurance, I may have chose to go to some more private doctors right off the jump. But really, I only had the ability to see the VA, and they could have caught this in February. I was in, and they scanned the wrong part of my body. So I wasn't really keen on what I was seeing in Boise. There's a whole story that goes along with my oncologist. I recorded every conversation that I've had. It was definitely a journey, and I had very interesting conversations that I'll, be speaking about in the future. But I basically started that journey. So I went in for a colonoscopy in August. I knew I had colon cancer. I could feel it. My body was at this point tired, weak. I couldn't concentrate anymore. I wasn't sleeping through the night. I dreaded going to sleep because I had night sweats that were so bad. And I went in and I told my doctor, I got on the scale and I weighed 119 pounds, and I told her, I think I have colon cancer. And so I really kind of walked her down why I felt like that, and so it was kind of the first time that her and I had that discussion, and so she ordered the colonoscopy. I called, my family and let them know that I was going in. And I don't think that my mom necessarily knew. I knew, but my mom and my sister showed up right away, and that's kind of where everything changed. So um, from day one of diagnosis, this kind of gets into where you come in. But from day one of diagnosis, I stopped so many things that I was doing. I was smoking cigarettes because I just had a lot of anxiety and anger and a bunch of things. So anyway, I was a smoker. I stopped that. I was a drinker. I stopped that. I stopped pretty much all intake of sugar, animal products. Let's see, gluten free. I'm trying to do gluten free totally. So I went through a huge diet change. And then I got in the car and I went to Seattle, and I hoped to find some more progressive healthcare there. And I thought I could really bridge the gap between Eastern and Western medicine and get some supplemental, but yet maybe still get some chemo if that's what I needed. And I didn't hear anything that made sense to me. The doctors that I spoke with didn't, I just couldn't agree eye to eye with them. We weren't speaking the same languages. My questions weren't getting answered. I didn't feel safe was the biggest thing. I mean, I just really didn't. And so for me, it kind of took me on a more healing journey spiritually. My sister had, started this program years ago and had taken her on this entire journey. And so I got linked up and I started doing biohealing, bioenergy healing. And I would say right now it stands that nutrition, it was a huge part of it, and I think has been a huge part of the way my body has been able to respond to things. But the bioenergy healing was so amazing to me, and it was, I mean, some of the deepest counseling that I've ever gone through in my life. I had no idea what to expect walking in, but I can tell you that there were times where, my eyes are closed and she's rotating her hands around my body, for anybody that doesn't know what this is. And she's not touching me at all, but she's going through my chakras, which is throughout my body. And, that's a total different teaching method or process. But anyway, I would tell you that it felt like she had a piece of fishing line tied to my tumor and she was pulling on it at certain times. Like it was that powerful and there was that much energy stored and locked, and so many things that I was going through that was coming out. And it started kind of through 2018 and really worked me back, kind of like peeling back an onion. And I really started to go through all of the things that had happened in my life, the hurts, the pains, the resentments. And that's when I think I really started my energy healing. My healing in general. My body was just really able to relax. And I felt like I could kind of step into myself more. For a long time, I just felt very off. And there was just no way to really explain it. I mean, I thought it was the trans thing, but it was bigger than that. I mean, I'm bigger than being a trans, person. There's more to me than that. And so like so much of when I started this journey, I was kind of laser focused on these things that I thought I was and how I thought this life was supposed to be, and what wasn't making sense and why. And this has totally come full circle. It's all been about trust and connection and organics. And I said that from the very first day I got diagnosed. I mean, from my very first video, I said there were, a few things that I felt. And one was that I had choice in this, and that the word cancer didn't scare me. It was chemo. Um, and so throughout this process, I really was able for like 3 months to focus on nutrition, energy, connection, just mind, body, soul work. And that kind of just unraveled through a series of events and a bunch of different coincidences, affirmations, however you want to put it. One thing just led to another, and my journey took me to Mexico. And I did end up doing chemo and radiation there. I did about 4 months in 6 days. So it was quite a bit unexpected from the beginning and where I thought this was going to go. But my body feels good. It felt really good while I was going through it. I felt really strong. And I am prepared to go back there in the next like 3 weeks, and I'll look at doing surgery and then see where my liver is. So as stands, my body's almost reversed 2 tumors in my liver before I started chemo and radiation. from nutrition and healing work and all of that other stuff. So
Yeah.
I felt very comfortable to start doing something like that. But I'm even more anxious to see kind of where I'm at now and, you know, what my body has done since. It's been stressful this last, you know, month and a half, 2 months. The first 3 months were fairly relaxing, and it was a lot of things coming out and me putting really healthy stuff in and just kind of figuring out this new walk. And then it came time to decision time and driving and executing, getting chemo, getting radiation. So I went through more of a stressful last 2 months. So it will be interesting to go down there and see how much that's affected me. If it was positive, negative, I don't know. But other than that, I feel really strong. I feel better than I did pre cancer. Um,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of things that was coming to my mind as you're talking about
Yeah,
your
I'm
story
sorry. I
because
just kind of took over.
no, that's fine. So, the beginning of it, you really painted the picture for all of this sort of not the animosity, this stress, these weights that were just weighing on you that you couldn't describe, but you had this feeling something was off, something wasn't right. You weren't, I'm sure you had no idea where to start. And so you kind of just
Right.
left it at that, like, I don't know what to do, but something's not right. And then kind of going through the doctors, you had said what the answers they were giving you or weren't giving you weren't settling right with you. And so then listening to your body again. And I think that's where a lot of people start to feel hopeless or helpless. And you took that opportunity and took it into your own hands, even though you didn't know why it didn't settle well with you. You decided, I'm going to do something else because I don't like how this situation is making me feel, which is an amazing step in progress for you based off of like the previous emotional state, to be able to recognize, like, I'm going to follow my instincts now. And it has led
Yeah,
you to where
so
you are.
it's kind of funny. So I say this, and so my favorite number is 33. I don't know. I mean, it's what I went by in high school. It's what my grandpa called me. There's just so
Yeah.
many things that, you know, around this number for me. I spent 30 years as Tiffany. I've spent now 3 years as Trevor right now. It's my 33rd year
Yeah.
of life. There's a ton of things right now going on with this number, and it's just like really been creeping me out. But um, to go kind of where you are going in this conversation, 2015 to 2016 was my transition, and that was
Mm-hmm.
like a battle of me and myself, and me versus
Yeah.
myself. And can I be intuitive enough to understand who my soul is and look at the world and say, this is me? I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't ask for it. I promise it's not a choice. This is crazier than I expected, but like, whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
2015, 2016 was a battle with me and myself. 2016, 2017 was a battle with me and my ex-wife. You can't control somebody else. You can't see for them. You can't hear for them. You can't make
Yeah.
decisions for them. It's like you know, it's you can do your part and you have your own agency. And outside of that, the rest kind of has to fall where it's going to. And
Yeah.
cancer is between me and something, which is even harder to
Mm-hmm.
control. You know, it's like this thing, people live and die on every single walk, whether Eastern, Western, stage 1, stage 4, it doesn't matter. People have done everything in between, you know? So it's like, this is now a battle between me and something that I have to overcome, that I feel like in a lot of ways my body created and my body wants to heal. You know, my body
Yeah.
from the beginning said, like you were saying, something's not right. I need to readjust, and I think that I'll feel better. And it's, you know,
Yeah.
it stood true regardless of, you know, whether I breathe or continue to breathe is kind of how I paint it. Like at the end of this, I live, you know, I wasn't living before. I was very scared. I was resentful. I was angry. I was frustrated. I was confused. I was lost. I was scared. I was detached. Um, there was just so many emotions that I could describe, you know, and it's like today I can stand in front of my family who absolutely sees me, you know, for who I am. I've got to watch my mom re-nurture kind of a child that I don't think she ever expected to have. It's different to have a boy. I think differently. I act differently. I need different things. So it's been a
Mm-hmm.
process for my family and stuff, but it's been really cool to like be able to come full circle with them and just connect together. Yeah, I don't know.
I think, I mean, to go to the comment that you had said, like you were battling yourself when you were going through your transition. I think that applies for everybody. We're constantly at bat with ourselves.
Correct.
And it's really mind and heart, because our minds were designed to keep us alive, but our hearts are there to make us thrive. And so many times our minds shut our hearts down. And so when we have these outside influences, like any doctors not able to answer you, it starts to create, it can create some confusion, and for some people some fear, and then they feel helpless and hopeless and don't know what to do. But I have loved to follow your posts and just see the empowerment that you embody now, and just understanding the journey and embracing it, because it is going to, I believe your body makes it, your body can heal it. So you are aware of that and you are on the journey for that happening. And really, I think this whole interview is to tell people that choices and your emotions, you can choose to stay angry with somebody and you can choose to let it go. Yes, there might be some strategies and some techniques you might need to adopt in order to help you work through it, but you choose your emotions. So choices matter. And so I think we've, in this society, we get so caught up in our daily lives and our to-do lists and all of our responsibilities, and it's overwhelming. It's stressful, but we chalk it up to it being our life, and it's normal. It's okay. I'm strong. I'm going to get through this. When really, internally, your body's like, what are you? It's screaming out for help, which is why we do get sick, which is why we do get illnesses, but we've kind of accepted all of that as quote unquote normal. When we do need to have this balance, which is what you are finding and continuing to find, as myself too.
Yeah,
So
it's
that,
funny. You kind of bring up some huge points that I've figured out on this journey, because I'm drinking from a fire hose for sure. I mean, in terms of the nutrition, I'm gonna kind of go through my daily routine, and everybody can see, what I do throughout the day that is, for my nutrition side of things. But in terms of, taking faith to a totally different level, that's kind of what I feel like this journey's done for me. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I had building blocks that this life provided me before, whether it was, certain things from school. So I had that system. I had a religious system. I had a healthcare system. I had, a military system. So there's a lot of things that I had in my toolbox, if you will, that I
yeah,
kind of been sitting back and watching. And I'm like, okay, I know a little about this. I know a little about that. And I think when diagnosis came to, I was really able to take all of those things to the next level. In terms of nutrition in my body, I took things that from science that I learned, from nursing school that I learned, from different wellness times that I had been on and journeys, and my sister as well, and I put all of those into play religiously. I really look at energy. You say emotions, I call that, energy and motion, and I've really been able
yeah, and
to
it is.
understand.
I mean, emotions encompass energy and vibrations, and I mean all of
Right.
that. So yeah, I
And
can
I
kind
didn't
of
know
use the
any of this. I mean, leading up to diagnosis, I was a very faithful person and I was a very spiritual person, but I was a very, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, faithful person. And I was very
yeah.
wishful thinking, and I was very much so trained to try to use my conscience to change my subconscious and my unconscious. And I couldn't figure out, and in a lot of ways, Trevor gets different eyes and different ears to see. And so I got some different breakthroughs, I think, where I could see that there was more to life than what I had been living as Tiffany. I knew that there was more that I could tap into. But this diagnosis really brought that full circle with bioenergy healing and understanding, where different emotions hit my body. Anger is the liver. Well, I was really angry last year. It makes sense. I had 8 tumors in my liver. You know,
Wow.
the spleen is worry. The lungs are grief. There's just different ways that you can kind of start to figure out this body, and when you do, you have more control. And that's kind of what I felt like in this entire diagnosis. Is it's almost feels like survival of the fittest a little bit. You know, the more you know, knowledge is power. I've
Mm-hmm.
learned small
It has the
sayings that make
potential
sense.
to be power.
That's true. That's true.
Knowledge is nothing unless it's paired with action. Then it becomes
That's true.
powerful.
And that,
Yeah.
a classic term that I would say that I've heard my whole life meant nothing. It was a great saying was you have to actually do the work. I get that.
Yeah.
This morning at
Yeah.
5:55 this morning, I'm being pulled up out of bed when I didn't fall asleep till 3 to meditate. I'm
Mm-hmm.
having a breakthrough. It's like I knew when it was coming. I could tell last night. I could feel it all day. I spent pretty much all day in meditation. Some people have
Yeah.
never done that. Some people don't
Yeah.
understand how to breathe and get themselves to a certain level and then be able to stay there and be quiet and listen and hear. And so it's like there's been a lot of healing that's gone on and a lot of different things that I've done in that realm, which again, before all I knew was get on my knees and pray, dear God, please give me some answers. And this is different. It's tied to that, but it's taken it, like I said, I feel like to the next level. So
I actually think that's because I mean, I grew up in a religious home as well, and I believe in God, and praying is normal, but meditation has been something I have been trying to implement the last little bit as well because we need to be still. I mean,
mhm.
we are constantly on the go. Our minds, our bodies, our energy inside, the emotions, we don't realize it because it's all habit now. So it's locked
Right.
into our subconscious mind. It's just automatic. And so I think meditation is great. I'm not great at it. I'm still working at it, but it is a key component that we all need to do because it forces you to stop.
Right. Well, and that's it. For me, the bioenergy healing, it is on your subconscious. And so I was really
Yeah.
able, there were times where I was going in a session and I felt like I knew why I was feeling shameful, and I remember pivotal days, and I've written stories down, and I plan to write a book so that, all of these things were falling into place in days, on times that I couldn't even predict, that were having to happen in order to walk me down this certain path of trust. And that's what all of this entire journey has turned out to be is, you know, a journey of trust and trusting myself
Yeah.
up until today. This morning, this breakthrough that I had was again on more like another affirmation that like this was something that further had to be taken. And yeah, it just really walked me through all of that and understanding like how to get myself to that state and how to be able to follow through doing the work and understanding what needs to be healed and how to kind of allow things to come to me versus me trying to control them. And
Yeah.
today I stand, and you said it kind of earlier about the mind, but it's so different for me. For so much of my life, my mind made all of my decisions. I mean, my ex-wife would tell you, she would say it all the time, I wish you could just think with your heart, stop using your mind. And I'm like, I can't. I'm
Uh,
analytical. I analyze everything. I look at everything from every angle all the time. I know,
yeah.
and I'm observant. So I have to watch, I have to analyze, and then I'm gonna make the best decision possible, and it's like that's how I've been my whole life. But for the
That's
first time in my life, I don't have any mind involved. So my
yeah.
body is healing. I feel like it's doing what it does. It's feels healthy, it feels strong, and my spirit is light. The vibration is high. I didn't even understand what that meant 4 months ago. But I can tell such a difference in the way my soul feels today versus where it was. And there is no mind. My mind does not interject and control how I'm going to feel and try to overtake the scenarios that are happening in my life. um, I was trying to control absolutely everything that was happening to me, and today I
Yeah.
can sit here and it's like I know certain things are going to happen. I know they're going to happen at certain times, and I'm super excited to let the journey unfold because I've been more excited and more alive on this journey and today right now than I ever was 30 10 years ago or 5 years ago, or so it's like I don't have to try to dictate my life anymore, which is fun.
And that's the whole point, really, of living, right? Is to do things
Right.
that are unfamiliar, that you can't predict, because that brings the growth and the joy and the lesson, possibly, if maybe it doesn't turn out so great. There's something to be said for not overthinking things, because that's something I am. When you were talking about you always work with your mind, that's me. And I'm working through that as well. Which is why this journey for me has been so enlightening and empowering. And I mean, it didn't even happen to me. My mom got cancer and it woke me up. And so it's led me down this path. And I have just, even though it was a very bittersweet reason, I am forever grateful that I took it in the direction I did, because I am as well learning to lead with my heart and not with my mind, not with my head. So I am so
Yeah.
excited for you.
I would say so. When I was in the military, sorry, my phone's gonna die, so I need to grab the charger. But when I was in the military, I told you I was getting a lot, or I was taking a lot of prescription medications.
Yeah.
I would say throughout this entire diagnosis, I've taken, I think, 2 Zofran. I did do chemo and radiation, like I said, but I've taken 2 Zofran, and I did take a lorazepam the first day I was diagnosed. And other than that, I would tell you that I don't have any anxiety or depression. I don't have any panic attacks. I mean, that has all changed for me, which is so
Yeah.
interesting that I can sit as a stage 4 cancer patient and not have depression and not have anxiety. But it's because so much of this, and I've said it since the beginning, I was going to find my purpose in my journey of treatment was going, or my treatment was going to create my purpose. And because I feel like I've wanted to help so many other people and it's never really been about myself, I've just
Yeah.
always felt really grateful and wanting to give back. It kind of does, like sitting and having this interview, I don't think about having anxiety because it is about helping other people, and it's about making sure
Yeah.
that maybe somebody's sitting there tonight and this touches them and it changes their life, and that's what this is about. So for me, I don't have to worry about my anxiety, my depression, my fears, what I look like. And I was really caught in that phase for a while, and it was hard. It was a hard place to be.
Yeah. But it is exciting to hear where you are now. I am looking forward to hearing how you do as the months go on and when you get back from Mexico and all that, because I mean, even with you going through chemo and all that, I mean, there's people who go through chemo, but because they believe that it is working for them, they fare better than those who are fearful when they get chemo. And so really your body is in a lot more control than we even realize. So the fact that you have come to that place where you don't have the anxiety because you want to help somebody else, I mean, that's got to be very fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yesterday, this week has kind of started the journey of that, and I have different cancer patients that are at different stages that, have different questions, fears, are on different walks, and they just kind of want somebody to talk to. I didn't have that. Everybody, people were looking at me like, you look great for a cancer patient. I'm like, I don't know what a cancer patient looks like. I wasn't really following anyone's journey. I was just kind of walking this thing by myself a little with my family. So it's like, I'm excited to start helping other people and seeing where their journeys go. And I see a lot of the same similarities. I hear a lot of the same things, whether it be disconnect, whether it's, the emotional healing that's going on, feeling like they needed organics and nutrition. I'm hearing just a lot of the same things that I was feeling too. So it's really affirmed that I'm not alone. And I know that I'm not, because other people have done it before me.
Well, and I want to plug this site. It's national for sure. It might be international, but healingstrong.org. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. They have organized meetups where people with cancer, and you don't necessarily have to have cancer, but maybe you know somebody with cancer, you can go and just be a part of a support group. So you can go online and find out what areas or what the closest area where they have a group is, and it's healingstrong.org. But it is, I think, important, like you mentioned, to have people around that you can go to who either have been through it or who just um, need need somebody to listen.
For
So
sure.
before we get off, I do want to ask you, and this is kind of impromptu, just for people listening, if they listen now or later, what is one thing that you would tell somebody now for advice regarding your journey? Like what's the one key component that you have taken away that you want to impact others with, or that you want others to know and take to heart?
I think it's true whether you have it's anything, is take your time and trust yourself. I think so often we get pushed in so many different directions, and you kind of said it earlier, we live in such a fast-paced life. I mean, I heard this public speaker say that our attention span now for our kids is at 6 seconds and goldfish is 5. Like, we're almost losing to goldfish. Like, we've got a serious problem. I mean, we know it, we know
Uh,
the problem we have, but for some reason we have given our means of control completely up. And so for me, I really took my time and I really trusted myself so that I could take control of my own life. At the end of the day, it is my life. On my deathbed, whether it's in 5 years, 5 months, 50 years, I'm going to have to say it was mine. So it's not up to the
yeah.
government to save me. It's not up to doctors to save me. It's not up to my
Yeah.
family. This is all a part of a journey about myself, about finding myself and trusting myself. So I think whether it's a emotional thing that people are dealing with, or I mean, for me, I dealt with anxiety and depression probably more than I ever let on for my entire life. It didn't go away until this year. It's like, but it did. And so it could be anything.
Well,
It doesn't have to be cancer. It's just trust your body to find the answers that it's searching for. And I think that's, living your most true north. And a lot of people, like you said, just haven't found that yet. And a lot of times it does take a disease or something, a major breakdown to get a breakthrough, is what they say.
yeah. Yeah. No, I think that is fabulous advice, because that kind of ties everything back in. Like you were talking about the meditation, we got to be still in order to just connect back to ourselves and be able to listen to what we want and just reconnect. So I love that. But I think that is all, unless
All
somebody has
right.
questions. I'm sure you are more than happy to answer too if anybody does watch this and have any questions. I'll answer later too. So anyhow,
For sure.
nobody's got questions, then we will just jump off. Thank you
All
everybody
right.
for joining on.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.